Hey everyone, welcome to Rugadoom, where the dark doesn't just wait outside your window, it waits inside your thoughts. I'm your host, and tonight I'm sharing a story I wrote called I Won a Moose Hunting Lottery in Alaska. I wish I hadn't. This tale takes us deep into the frozen silence of Alaska, where a hunter's lifelong dream becomes something far darker than he ever imagined. After years of waiting, he finally wins a permit to hunt moose, but what he finds out there in the snow isn't meant to be seen by human eyes. If you like the kind of stories that crawl under your skin and stick with you long after the lights go out, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the shadows here on Rugadoom. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, out there in the stillness, not everything that moves is alive. I had recently been awarded a lottery permit to hunt moose in Alaska. In this state, hunting moose is not a matter of personal decision. Rather, it requires entry into a regulated drawing system, through which only a limited number of permits are distributed annually. After several years of unsuccessful applications, my name was finally selected. I was excited as hell. The excitement I felt was considerable. Although I have previously hunted various North American game species, including deer, elk, turkey, duck, and occasionally wild hog, the moose remained the final animal on my list. I wouldn't call myself the best hunter on God's green earth, but I'm decent enough to tag a couple of deer every year. It keeps my freezer stocked and cuts down on grocery bills, which, up here in Alaska, seem to climb higher every damn week. I enjoy being in the outdoors, the quiet, the sound of snow or branches compressing underfoot, the scent of pine in the air, and the gradual shift of color as sunrise casts its orange glow across the landscape all contribute to a sense of peace. On this particular morning, a fresh layer of snow blanketed the forest like an untouched canvas, intensifying the sense of anticipation. I got up earlier than I normally would for any other hunt. Even before the alarm buzzed at 4:30 a.m., I was already half awake, too excited to sleep. I made myself a quick breakfast. While digging through the freezer for some sausage, I noticed a couple of packs of ground venison left from last season. After today, I figured I'd be restocking. Hell, I might even need to buy another freezer, depending on how much meat I brought home. While I ate, I pulled up the maps and checked the terrain I'd be hunting. I marked out a route I hoped would lead me right into a moose's path. The plan was to park at the end of an old logging road I'd scouted earlier in the year. It was overgrown and barely traveled, a dead-end spur that cut into the forest like a scar and stopped just shy of a frozen creek bed, perfect for staying off-grid and avoiding the weekend crowd. Once I finished eating, I suited up in my winter gear. I doubled up on thermals, because out here, you never know. I grabbed my rifle case, my pack, and a thermos full of strong coffee, then stepped out into the cold, dark morning. The ATV was already strapped down in the truck bed. I'd loaded it the night before, along with my quartering kit, a couple of sharp knives, a folding bone saw, nitrile gloves, paracord, and a set of heavy-duty game bags. I'd also thrown in a tarp to keep the meat clean while working. No chainsaw this time. I didn't need it. A handsaw would do just fine if I had to get through bone or heavy brush. I've heard too many stories about guys getting only a few cuts off a moose before the wolves showed up. That wasn't going to happen to me. I made it to the end of the logging road just before first light. The place looked exactly how I remembered it. Tight trail, no signage, nothing but the sound of snow tapping against the windshield. I backed the truck into the clearing at the very end, where the road just stopped cold in a wall of trees. It felt like the edge of the world. I unloaded the ATV, set my backpack down next to the rest of my gear, and took out my rifle. I slung the strap across my shoulder. The ATV gave me a bit of trouble, no surprise with the sub-zero temps, but after a few tries and some choice words, it rumbled to life. My plan was simple: drive a mile or two down the trail, park, then hike a 900-yard radius around each stop. If I didn't see anything, I'd hop back on the ATV and move farther down the line, rinse and repeat. At my first stop, I cut the engine and climbed off. That's when I noticed it. Something felt off. I couldn't explain it at the time, but there was this stillness, an absence. No birdsong, no squirrels rustling through the brush, no wind in the trees, just the faint hiss of snow falling and the crunch of my boots in the powder. It put me on edge. Now, I've hunted in quiet woods before, Still mornings are common up here, especially with fresh snow, but this was different. This wasn't just quiet, it was like the whole forest was holding its breath. The sky hung low over the treetops in a flat, steel gray wash. No sun, no shadows. Just cold light, dull and metallic. Even the snow underfoot felt heavier, like it was soaking up sound instead of reflecting it. I scanned the area as I walked, looking for what I should have seen: fresh moose tracks, big ones, dinner plate size, ragged tips of willow or alder where they'd been chewed, rubs on the trunks, scat, maybe even a wallow or a bedding spot tucked under spruce. But there was nothing, no tracks, no breaks, no browse tips, just untouched snow and a silence that pressed down like weight. At one point, I thought I heard a twig snap off to my right. I froze, listened. Nothing, just more of that heavy, dead quiet, the kind that starts to get under your skin. Looking back, maybe I should have turned around then, gone home, but I told myself I was overthinking it. Too much coffee, too little sleep. I checked my GPS and kept moving. Another mile or two. Search the area. Move on. Same plan. 4 hours passed. I hadn't seen a single sign of life. No tracks, no movement, no sound. The only thing I heard was my own footsteps. And even that started to feel like too much noise. And it wasn't just quiet around me, it felt like the silence was pushing in, pressing against my ears, my ribs, like something just beyond the tree line had stopped moving and was watching, waiting. I'm not ashamed to admit it. It started getting to me. I've always been the kind of guy who puts on a movie or some music if it gets too quiet. I don't like that trapped feeling. But I'd left my headphones at home, figured the ATV made enough racket as it was, and I didn't want to scare off a moose with classic rock echoing through the woods. I'd parked at the end of the logging road, just like I'd planned. The goal was to make a big loop, shoot early, get the hard work done while there was still daylight. If I could quarter it and get the meat back to the truck before dark, I'd spend the rest of the day on prep. But nothing was moving, and that quiet, it still wasn't letting up. I'm a single man, for now, at least. I work general maintenance out at Eielson Air Force Base, just outside Fairbanks. Not the most glamorous job in the world, but I do it well enough, and it pays decent, especially when it comes to funding my hobbies. I've been hunting since I was a kid. My old man started taking me out when I was maybe 10. I started with snowshoe hares and spruce grouse, then graduated to caribou and elk by the time I hit 16. I learned early how to gut, clean, and pack an animal, how to use every part of it, not just the cuts you see in a grocery store. Where I'm from, hunting isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life, something passed down. I'd call myself an ethical hunter. I don't take shots unless I'm sure I'll make them, and I don't kill anything I don't plan to eat. If it doesn't feed me or someone else, I leave it be. That said, yeah, I do mount some of my kills, not for bragging rights. It's more about respect. Honestly, and I don't usually admit this, I'll pour myself a glass of whiskey after a mount's done, sit down in front of it, and say a few words. Thanks for feeding me. Hope I earned it. Being single and hunting as much as I do, I usually end up with more meat than I need. I keep what I can use, vacuum seal it, mark it by cut and date. The rest? I give to co-workers or a few of the younger airmen I know could use a hand. I figure if I'm going to take a life, it damn well better feed someone. Most days, work on base is quiet. HVAC checks, busted lights, frozen pipes in the winter, especially in the old buildings. I keep the generators running, patch holes, fix whatever's broken. I'm not military, just a contractor, but I've been there long enough to know most of the faces. A few of the younger airmen stop by my place for a drink sometimes, swap stories, ask about hunting or fishing. The base can feel isolated if you don't find something to ground you. For me, it's always been the outdoors. This was as far out as I planned to take the ATV. I parked it at the base of a hill and figured I'd start working my way back around. Still nothing. I checked my phone. It was just past 11. The snow had started to pick up. Not a full whiteout, but thick enough to make me uneasy. Visibility was dropping. My boots were starting to sink a little deeper with every step. Then I saw it. A track, and not just any track. A moose track. Finally, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Maybe this hunt wasn't a total bust after all. I knelt down for a closer look. That's when I noticed something off. The print was too big. Moose tracks usually run about 5 to 6 inches across. This one was closer to 7, maybe more. And the shape, at first glance, it looked like a standard split hoof, but the edges were too sharp, almost claw-like. I told myself it was just the snow. Maybe it had melted weird, or maybe the animal pressed in too deep and distorted the outline. But still, it bothered me. I followed the tracks. Another odd thing, they didn't meander the way moose usually do. Moose tend to wander, grazing along the way, but this trail moved in a wide, arcing pattern, like it had a destination in mind. I followed the tracks for a good 3/4 of a mile, maybe more. Still no scat, no signs of browsing, no broken limbs, just those prints, one after another, leading deeper into the woods. I should have turned back, but I told myself I'd already come this far. The trail cut across a steep hill. I picked my way along the slope, boots sliding a little in the fresh powder. Just past the crest, I spotted a small stand of spruce, dark, tight, and still. That's when I saw him. A bull, massive. He stood broadside about 300 yards out, partly obscured by the trees, but there was no mistaking what I was looking at. His antlers were the most impressive I'd ever laid eyes on, wide, thick, and twisted like old driftwood, and tall, taller than any moose I'd ever seen in the wild, or in photos. A normal bull, including the antlers, stands maybe 7 feet. This one was at least 8.5, maybe 9. I let out a low whistle under my breath. Oh, you're definitely going on the wall, I thought, unslinging my .338 Win Mag. Might sound like overkill to some, but this rifle was passed down to me. It's old, a few scratches on the stock, but it's never let me down. I raised it to my shoulder and peered through the scope, and everything stopped. The wind, what little there was, died instantly. No flakes falling, no branches creaking. Even the soft groan of trees shifting in the cold went silent. The air felt wrong, pressurized, still, like the moment before a thunderclap. It was the kind of silence that doesn't feel natural. It feels like the woods themselves are holding their breath. I scanned the bull through the scope. The body looked normal, heavy, muscled, dark brown hide. But the head, God, the head. It looked almost right, but not quite. Like someone had sculpted a perfect moose head from memory, but missed something. Too smooth, too symmetrical. The kind of wrong your brain doesn't catch at first, but once it does, it won't let go. Then I looked at the antlers, each tine bent slightly inward, unnaturally curved, and the color. They weren't the pale bone white or velvet brown I was used to. They were dark, almost black, with a hint of crimson, like they were wet, like they were bleeding. I stared. My pulse ticked up. Every instinct I had told me to walk away. But I pushed the feeling down. Maybe it was sick. Maybe I was doing it a favor, putting it out of its misery. I figured I probably wouldn't be able to salvage much meat, but I'd at least get one hell of a mount for the den. I adjusted my aim, settling the crosshairs just behind the front shoulder. If I hit the lungs or the heart, it would drop clean. Finger on the trigger. Breath held, ready to fire. I had my finger on the trigger, just about to squeeze, when the bull's head snapped toward me. And I don't mean it turned, I mean it snapped, like something grabbed it by the jaw and wrenched its skull around in a single, violent motion. 1 second it was facing forward, the next, it was staring directly at me. I flinched, but didn't pull away from the scope. What I saw, God, I'll do my best to explain it. Now that I had a full view of its face, I could see just how wrong it was. The jaw looked like it had been wired shut, but pulled too tight. So tight the lips were curled inward, distorting the snout like something that had been forcibly sealed. But it was the eyes that froze me. They weren't just black. They were empty, like the entrance to a bottomless cave. No light, no soul, just void. Then I noticed it, a thin, vertical line running from the top of its skull down to the bottom of its jaw. Not a scar, not a seam, something else, and then the whole damn head split in half. Not just the jaw, not just the face. The entire head, from antler crown to throat, tore open down the middle like someone had unzipped it. bone cracked, flesh peeled, a wet, sinewy tear as the two halves pulled apart, flopping open to either side like wings made of skin and antler. From inside that split head emerged a second mouth, a massive, glistening maw where no mouth should have been. It yawned open slowly, revealing rows of needle-thin spikes, not teeth, not even bone. They looked like obsidian spears, long, wet, and curving inward like they were made to pierce and drag. At the base of the throat, something moved. Tendrils or feelers, twitching and tasting the air like a deep-sea thing. I stood frozen. Every part of my brain screamed, "Run!" But my legs wouldn't move. My hands wouldn't lower the rifle. I was staring at something I couldn't process, something so utterly wrong that my mind didn't know where to put it. Then it began to rise. The moose stood up on its hind legs, not rearing, but rising like it was becoming something else. The hooves split open, clawed digits unfolding like knives from sheaths. The legs moved apart, arms now, elbows where there shouldn't be any. It hunched like a T-Rex, lurching forward in a way that mimicked a man, badly. It took one step toward me. Instinct took over. I squeezed the trigger. 338 Win Mag roared, the recoil slamming into my shoulder. The shot echoed across the forest like thunder, and for a split second, I thought I had it. But the creature didn't fall. It didn't even flinch. The bullet hit its center mass. I was sure of it, but it just stood there, swaying slightly, as if I'd thrown a pebble at a mountain. No blood, no wound, nothing. Then it tilted its head at me, and I swear I could feel it, laughing, not making a sound, but the way it moved, like it was amused, like I was a child who just tried to hurt something infinitely beyond my understanding. That's when pure animal terror took over. And that's all I needed. I broke from the scope, slung my rifle, and ran. I tore through the small grove of spruce, boots slipping in the snow, branches whipping at my arms, my breath fogged in the cold, sharp and ragged in my throat. That's when it let out a sound, not just a noise, a cry. It echoed across the tree line like something from another world. My whole body went rigid, mid-stride. It started low, like a bellow, then twisted upward into something high-pitched and shrill, almost like a woman screaming, except no woman, no person, could ever make a sound like that. It hit me like a wall of ice. My heart stopped, then kicked back in, hammering against my ribs. And then I heard them. Footsteps. Not light, panicked footfalls, heavy ones. Rhythmic, ground shaking, something massive crashing through snow and brush, closer with every beat. I did the one thing you're never supposed to do. I looked back. Just a flash, dark shapes between trees, something tall and wrong moving through the forest. In that instant, between the sound, the glance, and the blind panic, I caught my foot on something under the snow, and then I was falling. The world flipped sideways. Snow, trees, sky. Then pain. My body slammed into the slope, bounced, skidded, cracked off rocks, hit roots. I couldn't even scream. The wind was gone from my lungs after the first hit. I must have rolled 50 feet, maybe more. Then I hit a tree face first, and everything went black. I woke up. God knows how long I'd been out. Long enough to have a dusting of snow settled on my jacket and face. The cold was biting now, not the crisp kind I was used to, but the kind that gnaws at the bones. My head throbbed. My ribs lit up like fire every time I tried to breathe. Felt like at least one was cracked, maybe more. My right hand was swollen, already going stiff. I couldn't move it without pain shooting up my arm like lightning. For a minute, I didn't move at all. Just lay there, dazed, staring up at the gray sky bleeding snow. Then I remembered. That thing was still out there, and it had seen me. I sat up slowly, every muscle screaming in protest. Snow shifted off my shoulders and legs as I forced myself upright and looked around. No sign of it. No sound. Just the hush of falling snow. I did a quick pat down with my left hand. Awkward and clumsy. My pack was gone, torn away in the fall. I spotted the rifle wedged against a root 10 feet upslope. Getting to it took everything I had, crawling through snow that felt like cement. When I finally wrapped my good hand around it, the relief was crushing. The scope was cracked, spiderwebbed across the lens, but it was still mine. All that remained now was a half-broken rifle, the knife on my belt, the GPS in my inner pocket, and the growing certainty that I'd left a part of myself somewhere up the hill. I reached for my phone and pulled it out of my chest pocket. Smashed, buttons unresponsive. It looked like someone had taken a hammer to it. No signal, no emergency call, no flashlight, nothing. Perfect. The snow was falling harder now. Fatter flakes, faster pace, visibility dropping again, wind picking up. I still had my knife at least. Small comfort. Better than nothing. But if that thing came back, I might as well be holding a butter knife. I fished it out with numb fingers. The screen was cracked but still working. Time said 3:10 p.m. That meant I'd been out cold for hours. I hit the map button. My saved waypoint blinked in the corner where I parked the truck. 5.3 miles away. Shit. The battery light on the GPS was already flashing red. I stared at it, willing it to last just long enough to point me in the right direction. I didn't dare start the ATV. Too loud. If that thing could move as fast as it looked, it'd be on me before I even turned around. No engine, no trail. I had to go on foot. As much as it killed me to admit it, I'd have to trek back to the truck, on foot, injured, armed with a knife. The choice was simple: lay down and die or survive. And I'm not the kind of man who gives up. Not out here, not like this. I turned off the GPS to save what little juice it had left, found my bearings, and started walking. Every breath was painful, tight, shallow gasps that made my ribs scream. The cold wasn't helping. Each inhale felt like ice carving its way through my lungs. My right hand throbbed with every heartbeat, swollen and useless. I cradled it against my chest, trying not to jar it as I moved. Every step was a test of balance and will. I did my best to stay quiet, no snapping branches, no heavy footfalls, just slow, deliberate movement through the snow. I couldn't risk making noise, not now, not when I didn't know if that thing was still out there, listening. The only silver lining, if you could call it that, was that my winter gear had probably saved my life during the fall. Layers of insulation had kept me from being shredded by rocks and branches, and they were keeping me from freezing now. Barely. I remembered the hot hands I'd packed. Clumsily, I fished one out of my jacket pocket with my good hand. It took longer than I'd like, but I got it open, crushed the packet to activate it, and tucked it inside my inner coat lining. Within minutes, warmth started to bloom against my chest. Dull, faint, but it felt like fire. It was the best thing I'd felt all day. The questions came then, circling my thoughts like vultures. Will I survive? What was that thing? Where is it now? I couldn't understand why this was happening. Why me? What were the odds? Out of all the hunters, all the people wandering the Alaskan backcountry, I had to be the one to cross its path. I kept walking, not fast. Couldn't afford fast, but steady. One careful step after another, teeth gritted against the pain, eyes scanning the forest for movement. And then, just for a moment, a memory surfaced, my dad's voice. Not loud, not clear, just the echo of something from years ago. Walk like you've got the weight of silence on your shoulders, he used to say. If the forest hears you, it'll never show you what you're looking for. I remembered him crouched beside me, deep in the brush outside Fairbanks, showing me how to step over dry twigs and how to watch for loose snow. I was 12, maybe younger. I'd always thought he meant it about animals, about moose and caribou and wolves, but now I think maybe he meant something else. Time didn't mean much anymore. Could have been 10 minutes or an hour. The sky was the same color as the snow, and the snow just kept falling. And then I heard it. Distant at first. Thump. A pause. Thump, thump. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Deliberate. Too slow for a bear. Too rhythmic for a moose. It wasn't crashing. It was searching. My chest tightened. I hadn't heard a single animal since morning. No birds, no squirrels, no wolves. Just this thing. The forest was holding its breath again. The sound grew louder, closer. and I was still too far from the truck. Fear hit me like a wave. My heart started pounding so hard it felt like it was rattling my broken ribs. Every beat sent a spike of pain through my chest. I was sweating, despite the snow falling all around me. The cold didn't even register anymore, just the heat of panic, of being hunted. The footsteps grew louder, slow, heavy, measured. Thump, pause, thump, thump, getting closer. I was alone, unarmed, bleeding, and whatever this thing was, it was still out there, still moving toward me. I drew my knife with my left hand. It felt small, insignificant. I gripped the handle so tight my knuckles ached. Like that would help. I had to hide. I don't remember making the decision, just the movement. My body moved on instinct. I slid off the trail and slipped into a low thicket of spruce brush. The branches snagged at my coat, but I kept pushing until I was crouched low in the center. It was slightly warmer in there, shielded from the wind. The snow didn't fall as thick under the cover of the needles, but it was cramped. I couldn't move without brushing branches, couldn't breathe too loud without fogging up the air around me. That's when I realized I was breathing too hard, short, rapid breaths. Panic. My chest rising and falling like a damn piston. I clamped my elbow over my mouth and nose, trying to stifle the noise. I tried to make myself smaller, quieter, gone. The footsteps were close now. Too close. Thump. Crack. Thump, thump. It was just on the other side of the trees. Then I heard it make a sound. Low at first, a deep rumble, like a growl buried under its breath. But it didn't rise, it didn't escalate. It just hovered there, buzzing through the air like something half growl, half purr. It was hunting. I didn't know how it hunted. Sight, smell, sound, maybe all three. I couldn't risk assuming anything. I didn't even blink. I just listened. Every second stretched out like a minute. And still, it came closer. I prayed that it hunted by sight, not smell, not sound, just sight. I didn't know how it saw anything with its damn face peeled open like that, but if I stayed still, if I didn't make a sound, maybe it wouldn't notice me in the brush. I could hear it moving through the snow now, slow and steady. Closer. The crunch of ice beneath its weight was soft, but distinct, measured, like a predator on the final approach. Then it stopped. Right outside the bush, I could feel its presence before I saw it, like the air had thickened, turned electric. My skin crawled, my lungs burned. I didn't dare move, not even to blink. And then, through the thicket, I saw it. Its massive head lowered just beyond the branches, split wide, still in that nightmarish state. I couldn't see its eyes, not in the normal place. All I could see were the teeth, those black, glistening spikes curling inward, and between them, twitching along the gums, were thin feelers, like antennae, or worm-like tendrils, brushing the air around them. They moved like they were tasting, smelling, scanning. Then it shifted, and I saw more. 3 fleshy stalks rose from the top of its skull, extending like antennae. At the end of each was a round, faceted orb, like a fly's eye, but wet and dull gray, twitching in different directions independently. My blood ran cold, so much for hoping it couldn't see. And with those feelers, God, it might not even need eyes. Maybe it could taste me on the wind. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Just hoped the bush's scent and the cold air were enough to mask me, that its senses, whatever the hell they were, would pass right over me like I didn't exist. It swayed slightly, side to side, one of the stalk eyes tilting downward toward where I crouched. That's when I felt it. Breath. A thin stream of air rolled over my face, hot, wet, wrong. It reeked of decay, like something rotten hiding beneath the snow. My eyes stung from the stench, and every muscle in my body screamed to recoil. But I couldn't. Don't breathe, don't blink, don't move, not even an inch. The words looped in my head like a metronome. Don't breathe, don't blink, don't move, don't breathe, don't breathe. It swayed again, closer. The brush quivered from the motion, and I kept repeating it over and over, like a prayer to a God I wasn't sure was listening. Don't breathe. That's when I noticed it, something rising from its fur like smoke. At first, I thought it was steam from the cold air, but this wasn't natural. The haze shimmered faintly, like heat ripples above asphalt, though the air was freezing. It had a greasy, almost chemical sheen to it. It took me a second to understand. It was releasing its scent. The stench hit me so violently it felt like a living thing, a putrid cocktail of decomposing flesh, ammonia, and something worse, something human, bile maybe, the scent of a dying gut. I gagged hard, my stomach clenching like it was trying to crawl up my throat. I jerked back involuntarily. That one small sound, that single motion, was all it needed. Its head snapped toward me, those empty voids where eyes should be burned through the branches, locking onto mine. I froze. It had done this on purpose. The stench was bait, an invisible net to make me flinch. It began to move toward me, slow and deliberate. Every step it took was silent, but the forest around it seemed to recoil, as if the trees themselves wanted no part of what was coming. A trail of drool stretched from its jaw to the frost-covered ground, glistening in the dim afternoon light. This thing didn't just want to kill me, it wanted me to know I'd been hunted. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I couldn't. It loomed over the bush I was hiding in, body stretching and contorting in a way that defied anything I'd seen in nature. A clawed limb reached down, hooved and jointed wrong, like it had been built rather than born. The claw hovered, trembling, an inch from my face. I should have stabbed it, or at least screamed, but I didn't. Because I knew deep down none of it would matter. If I fought back, I'd die slower. This wasn't some predator. It was something older, something that existed for pain. And then, salvation came from the deep. A growl rolled through the woods like distant thunder, low, primal, unmistakable, a bear, a real one, the kind that bleeds and breathes and sleeps. I recognized the timbre immediately, a sound every hunter fears, but tonight it was a godsend. The creature froze, the haze around it thickening like it was holding its breath. Another growl, closer now, more aggressive. The creature turned its head, then its body, drawn away from me by the challenge. Without thinking, I ran. Branches slapped my face, thorns ripped through my sleeves. I ran until my legs went numb, until my lungs clawed for air, until my boots barely touched the earth. Behind me, the forest erupted. The bear roared, once, then there was silence, a wet, horrible silence, punctuated by the crunch of bone and the tearing of meat. I ran faster. I don't know how long I ran. 10 minutes? 30? Time stopped meaning anything. The forest was endless, a looping nightmare. Every shadow looked like claws. Every sound was it. But eventually, the adrenaline began to crack. Pain surged in, knees, chest, hands. My legs gave out beneath me, and I collapsed against a tree. Breathing hurt. The air stabbed into my lungs like knives. My ribs ached. Blood ran sticky down my forearms. And for the first time since this hell started, I thought about giving up. Everything I knew told me I was finished. I was a human on empty, and this thing? It was a force of nature. An apex predator with a hunger for suffering. I stared into the darkening woods and whispered, "This is it." My hand fumbled through my pocket and pulled out my GPS. My fingers were numb, blood-slicked, shaking. I stared at the tiny screen and made myself a deal, the kind of deal you only make when your soul's already halfway out of your body. "If it's more than 2 miles," I whispered aloud, voice cracking. I stop. I sit right here. Let the cold take me. At least I'll go out with silence. I held my breath and turned the device on. 7:06 p.m. Distance to truck, 1.9 miles. I broke. Tears erupted from me, loud and choking. I wasn't even crying from relief. I was crying because I wasn't allowed to give up yet. The universe had shoved hope back in my lap, cruel and bright like a match in the dark. I was close, so goddamn close, but the terror crept back in like a fog. What if it followed me? What if it let me get this far? What if it wanted me to feel hope before it took me apart? The forest seemed to lean in closer, listening. Every rustle felt like a breath on my neck. Then I heard it, those same footsteps, heavy, deliberate, rhythmic. I didn't think, I didn't breathe, I just ran. My lungs were on fire, and the cold had turned my tears to ice streaks on my face, but I ran harder than I ever had. My boots barely gripped the earth. Every few steps I thought I'd collapse, but somehow my legs kept moving. Just a little more, I muttered, again and again. Just a little more, just a little more. Please. Then I saw it. A flash of faded blue in the darkness. My truck. I screamed, half laughter, half madness. I yanked the keys from my pocket and dove inside, slamming the door shut behind me. The engine turned over with a painful cough, then roared to life. I cranked the heat and peeled out, tires flinging gravel into the trees behind me. I didn't care how hurt I was. I didn't care how bad my hands were bleeding. I was leaving this place, now. The plan was simple: follow the dirt road for 2 miles, take a right for 20, then a left, and I'd be gone. Home, safe. But just before I reached the first turn, I saw them. 3 massive shapes standing motionless in the middle of the road. Moose. I slammed on the brakes, stopping just 2 feet from the nearest one. My heart pounded in my ears like gunshots. Then I looked up into the rearview mirror, and everything stopped. It stood behind the truck, coated in gore, its body steaming in the cold night air. In one grotesque hand, it held the severed head of the bear like a trophy, its mouth hanging open in a final frozen scream. The creature tilted its head at me, as if asking, "You see now? Look what I did. Look what I can do." I screamed and hit the gas. I didn't care if I plowed through moose or crashed into a tree. I had to move, but I didn't. The truck wouldn't move. I looked forward again. The moose were no longer moose. They were those things, twisted into new shapes, bone and fur and claw, arms hooked around the hood, keeping me in place like a child's toy. And then I heard it again, the footsteps, getting closer. Then, a breath on the glass. It was here.